The storm had polished the city overnight, turning futuristic buildings into a sugared city of ice and wonder. Snow clung to the edges of every surface, highlighting the careful geometry, not too unsimilar to the snowflakes that adorned it. Even the walkways, normally spotless, were a thin white dusting between sweeps. Titus had barely slept, his thoughts refusing to quiet while he laid there, looking toward the ceiling, as if it held the answers for what happens next. It never did. He made his tea by hand for the ritual of it, even though the perfectly calibrated tea kettle could make it for him. His room door chimed. Iris. "Come in," he called out. Her coat seemed too heavy for her frame. "There's something I want to show you before the others wake up." It was spoken with hushed excitement. Together they crossed a walkway from the main house over to where the garages sat, and by them, Iris's favorite place on the entire property. Warm air whooshed out to greet them as she opened the glass door, carrying the scent of soil and something sweet like the smell of rain on grass. Inside, the world warmed and softened. Green filled his senses as humidity clung to his skin. He was surrounded by hundreds of plants, some of which he knew, but most he had never seen before. "Is this yours?" he asked. Her face changed, a quiet pride, but also a flash of vulnerability. She nodded. "Some of the plants I brought with me from Solos, but many I created." She touched the edge of a broad leaf with the same care someone might use to lift a sleeping child's sweaty hair from their face. These, in particular, struggle here. They grow beautifully in Solos, but they fight this environment. They refuse to adapt, and I sort of admire them for that, if I'm being honest. Maybe I understand what that feels like. He studied her, not the plants she gestured to as she spoke, but her. The way her shoulders relaxed the moment she shrugged off her coat. How she tucked her glassy black hair behind her ear, just for it to fall forward the second she moved again. How her voice lowered like they were being overheard. Then again, it was Unire. Perhaps they were being overheard. "There is beauty in that," Titus said. "In failure to thrive?" she asked jokingly. "In the admission of it." Iris looked down, pressing her thumb into the soil beside a stem, grounding herself in a way that others might by holding their own wrist. "When everything around you seems controlled," she murmured, "even the smallest wild thing feels like a miracle." Outside, snow slid down the glass. Inside, the plants were trembling slightly in the warm air, stretching toward the cold sun or lights. She lifted a pot, a small plant. "This one, I've thought was a goner multiple times, but every time I decide to let it go or move it outside, I find it reaching again, like asking for another try." especially the plants I transplanted from home. They don't thrive here, but they are stubborn, and they do survive here. It was a confession. Titus understood. She wasn't talking about the plants anymore. He nodded, slow. "Thank you," he said, "for bringing me here, for showing me this." Iris wiped her palms on her jeans. "This is the only place in the city that feels right." Titus left her there, with her stubborn plants and curated soil. In her happy place. His parting meeting with Cambros was at noon, and he knew he needed to prepare, but for a moment longer he watched her. In the greenhouse, Iris didn't look like she usually did. She didn't even appear to be a citizen of Unire. Her Solos roots were showing. Hands in the dirt, hair messy, eyes sparkling about the things she loved. He was glad he had gotten to see her this way. This has been a sample from Solos, chapter 24. To pre-order the full book, Solos, you can visit our website at ferrantefamilywellness.com, and you'll find it in our store. Thanks for listening.